Hey gang, Ronan here, welcome on back to the Retrocade, and welcome to another edition of Suckerpunch Sunday, where we hit the Wayback Machine and check out a classic fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. And this week, after a little bit of debate, I decided I'm going to take a go at what is considered by far one of the worst fighting games and also one of the worst video games ever played, or ever made rather. We're going to play Shaq-Fu. Now, a couple things going into this. If you don't know who Shaquille O'Neal is, if that name does not ring any bells for you whatsoever, you're either very much not a basketball fan or you've been living on another planet for about the last 30 years. Just so you understand, Shaquille O'Neal was an NBA basketball player and a Hall of Famer who played from 1992 to 2011. Won a couple of championships with the LA Lakers and the Miami Heat. This game was released through Electronic Arts and a now defunct developer called Delphine Software for the Genesis, Super Nintendo, Game Gear, Game Boy, and Amiga. It came out on the Genesis in 1994 and the SNES at the same time. We're playing the Super Nintendo Entertainment System version today. And what we're going to do over the course of the next half hour is we're going to just see how far we can get in this game and weigh whether or not it is as truly as bad as the critics said it was. Now, I should tell you, this is also a game I have never played, in part because it was so poorly received. Now, the general premise of the game is Shaquille O'Neal is in Tokyo, Japan, walks into a dojo while heading to a charity basketball game, and after speaking with the dojo's master, he somehow gets transported to another dimension, the second world, where he must rescue a young boy named Nezu from the evil mummy Set Ra. That's all the information the game provides you. The Genesis version supposedly has more playable characters, and the story mode's longer. It's 3 more stages. I'm playing this one in part because it is a little bit shorter, and maybe in theory we could, if possible, beat it in the next half hour. So we have to take on someone named Kaori, who is an animal hybrid. And the controls of this game are pretty straightforward. You have your basic run, move, and jump attack buttons. You have 2 punches and 2 kicks. You have a heavy punch and a heavy kick. Now, one of the things that they said actually was a good thing about this game was the graphics, which again, for 1994, aren't terrible. But I have yet to be able to really get a shot in on this female martial artist, and she is tearing me to shreds. And I've already lost. Now, I do find it interesting already here in the first minute that Shaquille O'Neal, at least in this game, is capable of moving like Bruce Lee. Especially considering he is about 2 feet taller and at this point in his career roughly 200 pounds heavier than the great Bruce Lee was. Bruce Lee stood about 5'5", 5'7". Shaquille O'Neal is 7 foot 1 inches tall. And there's no way in the world I can catch this girl, so I've got to bait her in her corner and basically do this. And we ran out of time, so I lost. So it's like most fighting games, that is best 2 out of 3 falls. Now, do I have the option? Do I have to fight her again? No, I don't. Okay. So, can I go back to the dojo? No, I can't. So, that one didn't work. Let's go to Gargoyle's Peak. Now, when GamePro reviewed this game in '94, they gave the SNES version, which is again the one we're playing. They gave it a favorable review based on the graphics quality. Which again, for the time, being now, yours makes no difference, 30 years old, is not terrible for the day. You know, you're looking at 16-bit graphics. And granted, this would be about the same time that you started seeing games like Donkey Kong Country and Star Fox, really, on the Super Nintendo. Oh, he caught us while we were stunned and we were taken out. Now, when Next Generation reviewed the Genesis version of this game, they gave it 2 stars out of 5, stating that Shaq-Fu includes everything a good fighting game needs, with the exception of good fighting. And I think I can see that already. Because in order to be able to get a shot in on these guys, I gotta get right up next to them. But they can all launch projectile weapons and stuff. And Shaq doesn't really have any special moves. And those energy blasts this guy dishes out hits us for a heck of a lot more than we're giving back. And we were running out of time anyway. Now, in the 29 years since this game came out, it's made the list of quite a few lists, I should say, of the worst video games of all time. Although, in September of '97, Nintendo Power voted it on its list of the top 100 best games of all time. But that list also included the 10 worst games of all time as voted by staff, which placed Shaq-Fu as the 3rd worst on the list. So actually, the information I got was a little misconstrued. So in their top 100 games, they also ranked the 10 worst. Shaq-Fu placed 3rd on that list. The article stated it was, quote, not possible to come up with a worse idea than this. And then EGM, Electronics Gaming Monthly, ranked it number 10 on their 10 worst games of all time. So I've gone that way, and I've gone that way, so I might as well check this. Now, as bad as the Super NES and the Genesis versions were, apparently the Game Boy and the Game Gear versions were even more derided and more maligned than these ones. So all told, I think I've gotten like 4 hits on all 3 opponents I've taken on so far. Although we might actually win this one. We did. We simply wore him down. So we don't get a bonus for the win. We won via timeout. But that's our first win, and we're 10 minutes into playing this game. So he's got the Chun-Li leg kick, along with those scimitars. Oh, and we've got him upset to the point now where he can do Fury, whatever that means. I'm assuming that means he can hit harder. But we've already lost, and we almost had him beat. Now, a game like this can't help but beg the question, who in their right mind thought this would be a good idea? But again, as in all things, context matters. So you got to think about how things were in 1994, 95, when everybody was still going mad over playing Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and people were looking to capitalize on that trade, and or on the craze rather. And because of that, you're going to have so many games that are a derision of it, that you get far lesser quality titles like Shaq-Fu. And we lose again. So we won 1 out of 3 and have lost to each opponent in this game so far. Now we've got apparently 1 credit left before we are left with a complete game over. So we can't go that way. Fighting all-purpose cultural cat girl Nuku Nuku is going to be a waste of time because she's just too quick. Alright, well, let's go back here and see what we can do against Mummy Boy. I'll whisper in your ear right after I slap you silly. Okay, Shaq. And that we don't even get the names of the opponents that we're fighting. Like, I have no idea what this guy's name is. I know we're supposed to fight a mummy named Set Ra. If this is Set Ra, then it makes sense as to why we're losing so badly, because we're essentially fighting the last guy we should be fighting in the game. We shouldn't be fighting M. Bison yet. Well, we actually won one, and we won it clean. With plenty of time to spare. I mean, by comparison to Marvel superheroes, which again, as I said yesterday in Sports Saturday, I had a ball playing. And speaking of Sports Saturday, I hope you did enjoy that yesterday, where we played the original EA basketball game. For the Sega Genesis, Lakers versus Celtics in the NBA playoffs. We got shellacked by the Lakers playing as my Boston Celtics, but that's neither here nor there. But in that, I mentioned how I had so much fun playing Marvel superheroes. Oh, we finally got Furious, but we lost anyway. So it looks like you have to take enough sustained damage without getting beaten to trigger Fury mode. And then when you hit Fury mode, you get, naturally, a power boost. But I can already tell you, this game does not hold a candle to Marvel superheroes. But we lose anyway. So we're 15 minutes in, and we have lost every attempt to move forward in the story mode. So forward, back, forward, and X or Y has Shaq throw his version of either a Dragon Punch or a Fireball. I would say a Dragon Punch called a Shaq-Uriken, which is just sad. That's awful. So I think what we'll do is from here on out we'll just do the dual version. And I might as well just pick Shaq. Now, does it tell us who we're fighting? Nope. We're just supposed to guess. Now, I'm thinking this is either a derivative of an African warrior woman or a voodoo priestess. Judging by the skull on her headband and the people fighting or playing the drums behind her, I'm going to say voodoo. She launched a bird at me. Oh, and then, yeah, she's a voodoo priestess. She stabbed me with a voodoo doll. How tropey can you get? And we lost because we timed out, and she had more health than we did. Now, again, in their relatively favorable review of this game, GamePro said the Genesis version is actually better because it has the additional characters. It said the controls were better. Which, the controls of this aren't terrible. It's just, your hitboxes are so awful. Especially if you're playing as Shaq. Because Shaq is so big compared to most of his opponents. Like, he's punching right over her head. And she double stabbed me with a voodoo doll and totally wiped me out. And again, you only get 3 credits for each version of the game, apparently. But again, GamePro went on to say that the game is fun once you get used to the small, fast sprites. I don't think that's really what settles it. Because the sprites are one thing, but a game that looks okay even for the time by modern standards, and I will say it took me a little while to actually, I had to convince myself to take a break because I've been spending most of my evening playing Final Fantasy 16 on my PS5. And I will tell you right now, unequivocally, graphically, that is an amazing game. Story-wise, I'm actually having a lot of fun with it too, but by comparison to this, I mean, this might well have been programmed in MS-DOS by comparison to graphic fidelity and quality. And we lose again. So I think my best weapon here is just going to be a standard sidekick to be able to hit her with. Because it's the only weapon I have that can consistently hit her in range so long as she doesn't block it. Ooh, she turned into a wolf. And then she stabbed me with a voodoo doll and I died again. Okay, let's try this with an entirely different character. I'm just gonna let this wind down, because if I hit start again, then I'll have to play as Shaq again. Now, this was not also the only video game that was based on a prominent NBA player, I should say. You also have Charles Barkley's Shut Up and Jam. You have Michael Jordan's Chaos in the Windy City and Slam City with Scottie Pippen. Now, I'm assuming that those other three games or at least have some basis in being basketball games, especially with Charles Barkley's Shut Up and Jam. So, okay, so we have Cowrie, we have Beast, Set, Memphis, Voodoo, and Raja. So this is the ultimate big bad guy in this game. And then, of course, Shaq. But we haven't seen him yet, so let's see what Set does. And he's immediately going to take on his henchman, Memphis. Okay, he's got that spinning slicer move, but it doesn't seem to do much damage. And normal attacks just don't do anything. Which means in order to really be good at this game, you've got to be able to figure out how all the super attacks work, and you've got to be able to stack them. Although that time we got him with the spin slicer, and we put him away just in time before the timer ran out. So if I follow him as he jumps, and I can execute the spin slicer, then all the better. But the fact that he was able to block so many of my attacks in the middle of that fight is alarming, because that means if you can't break his guard, then what's the point? But we actually won an entire fight, so that's something. We only did it at roughly 24 minutes in this episode. And obviously this is a game that I could have done as a WTF Wednesday, but and I wouldn't have felt bad for doing it then either. But seeing as how this is a full-on fighting game, it was just as appropriate here as it was if I played it in the middle of the week. So and Cowrie's almost in fury mode, and we fought to a draw. Well, that's a new one. I can't remember the last time I fought to a draw when neither fighter did a double knockout. Which I've done playing many a Capcom-based game for a long time. My sister and I, when we would play these games, we got so good at it, it was not uncommon for us to get a double KO on each other at least once in a session. Now, can I get her before she knocks me out? Nope, she beat me. And because it was best 2 out of 3, now if I happen to win this one, I can only assume we have to go to a 4th match. Because we can't leave it as a tie. That would completely defeat the purpose. I will say, if anything, because I don't want to be so overly negative about this game, I do see the potential here. I see that it could have been something... Would it ever have been as good as the games that define the fighting genre in the 90s? Absolutely not. I mean, there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig. But in seeing what Delphine Software was doing, and I mean, yeah, the character art, again, isn't terrible. The graphics overall aren't bad. Everybody moves really fluidly, even though the controls are so basic and rudimentary. You know, trying to pull special moves is a nightmare. I'm not even, you know, I don't know what to do. Trying to execute Fury Mode for my character seems utterly pointless, where they're consistently stacking up on their end. They're much more capable of blocking than I am, and I got throttled and I lost. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to call it there, because we're just about at 30 minutes. So that, everybody, in a nutshell, is Shaq-Fu for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System from 1994. Again, widely panned as one of the most badly made games and one of the worst received games of all time. I mean, they did do a remake of it, or a sequel of it in 2018 called Shaq-Fu: A Legend Reborn. As far as I know, it was no better received than the original, although the Xbox One version apparently got some decent praise out of it. But, yeah. You know, I've gone ahead and decided to play it, so no, you don't have to if you don't want to. If you do, I think I would recommend probably playing the Genesis version over the Super NES version. Again, they said you have access to more characters, the story mode is longer, and the controls are better. Because we played a Genesis game yesterday, that's why I decided to play a Super Nintendo game today. And yeah, I mean, it was a mid-90s attempt to capitalize on Shaquille O'Neal's name, and as he's a guy who is now renowned for having his name and image invested in all sorts of stuff. I mean, you can't watch TV or be online and not see an ad without him in it for something. So, you know, it's just part and parcel with what he was trying to do in building his media footprint while he was still playing basketball. So, you know, it's what it is. So if you've enjoyed this, and I hope you have, best way you can show it is, as always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. Remember, we have Sports Saturday coming up again next Saturday, where we will play a sports-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. And heads up, our next playthrough is going to start getting recorded next week. And then I will start posting those the following Monday of the week of the 4th of July. So be on the lookout for that. I will not give you any hints or spoilers other than it's a PlayStation 1 game, but not one you may commonly associate with that system. I'll leave it there. If you can figure it out based on that little bit of information, you're a smarter person than I am. Be sure to spread the word about us and join us on Instagram at Ronan's Retrocade. The faster we can get to 100 subscribers, the faster we can unlock the YouTube customization algorithm, and we can make this channel bigger and better. Big shout out, big thank you to everybody who has subscribed over the last couple of weeks. I've seen the numbers go up. Your patronage is, as always, greatly, greatly appreciated. And if there is a game you would like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, or MegaDrive, SNK Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below or drop me a line on Instagram. It can be any game from those consoles you want. And as always, my name is Ronan. It's been great to spend this Sunday with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming, and we will talk to you again next week. Bye!